Yeah, yeah. I want to know what you're up to now. That's because I don't know. I mean, are you touring all the time? Is that kind of a nonstop thing for you, or?
Yes. Unlike what I would have expected at my age, where most people think about retirement or slowing down or taking it easy, the nature of my life, I live alone, and music is my life, and I love performing. And while I have the energy and willingness to do it, it seems like I'm saying yes to things more often than I did even in the past. So I'm doing a lot of traveling. I have a very young band that plays with me.
They keep you young, huh?
They're doing their best to try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the challenge of trying to keep up with them. And even today with some very unusual activity that I wouldn't have expected. I love learning things about the way other people are experiencing music. And a whole industry like this, a convention like this that's devoted to all the different ways that music can be heard in a better, attempting to make it better, more realistic, more, yeah.
Okay, and you know what? Somewhere I have a name tag that says Jeff Wilson, The Absolute Sound. And The Absolute Sound in this event, to an extent, it's speakers, cables, turntables, cartridges, all that. But in the basement, or on the first floor, is a bazillion vinyl LPs. I don't know if you've even gone down there.
No,
but
I want
if
to.
you want to go record shopping, you will see amazing amount of vinyl, and a lot of it's audiophile, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's my world. I am the music editor of that.
I remember this
and
magazine.
That's why we've been having discussion, and Evo Sound contacted me through somehow they got in touch with me, and I've written about your music for the magazine that you've been doing with them and some of your releases, and so I've been keeping up with you that way. And
Thank you very much.
So that connects with this, and I'm doing a little show report, and I'm doing some Facebook. I'm going to put your picture on Facebook. That's my world.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, just not that you need to hear my life story, but I can do it pretty quick, which is I'm 64, so around 71, I was buying records by Santana. I loved Santana, and who's got me talking about Miles Davis, who was talking about Miles Davis and John Coltrane. So I'm starting to take that in as a high schooler and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And I was a record collector then, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. So I have a lot of jazz vinyl. So I've written a lot about like the vinyl sort of coming back, and that's through the magazine. So something that is a hobby for me, which is collecting records, turned into something that I write about as well. And when vinyl started to come back about 13 years ago-ish, I wasn't the editor yet, but I was freelancing, and I wrote articles left and right about, hey, this is happening. And I just just for people to care about sound, obviously you do. I mean, you're recording with people who are very audiophile in their goals, and you're working with some of the best. How did you get connected with that label?
Well, nice way of, because as you were describing your world and listening to you, I was realizing that mainly what I want to do with you is cry and whine. And
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, because, right off the bat, if I pull these fucking things off of my ears, I have to admit to you that I'm now wearing hearing aids, and that the very fundamental part of this world makes me sad, because I can't appreciate it. I get it, and there was a time in my life, probably in the 1970s, when I would have been having a freakish, unbelievable time in this building. I would have been going completely nuts.
Yeah.
And I would have been talking about every aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's now that is a memory in my life. And I met the Yamaha guy at the Yamaha booth just now, this morning, when I went up there and met him for the first time, who's kind of one of the guys who's doing their booth. And recently Yamaha has given me, as a result of a lot of things that I did for them too, and on my album, Yamaha systems are advertised and everything, so they've been nice to me. And I received in the mail a pair of these NS5000 Yamaha speakers. Very, very expensive, very beautiful speakers, which I now have in my studio at home. And they're amazing to the degree that I can appreciate. And he immediately introduced himself as the guy who designed them. And he's a young guy.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'm talking to the guy that invented them or designed them or their new flagship thing. And I was so much wanting to have a conversation and enjoy it. But immediately I knew that I can't speak that language anymore. And it's my ears. I can't hear it.
Well, you know, it's very interesting what you're talking about. On the other hand, your records do sound great. So it's interesting because if you're telling me that you can't suss out the minutia like you could in the 70s, at least you're in the hands of the people who sure as hell can.
Very important. Yeah. Ultra important. It still is. And I've hired full-time young guy, and I know he's got great ears. And I know he's got great potential, and he wants it, and he's studying, and he trained under one of the great classical engineers, whatever. But we have to speak a double language, and we have to translate for each other, in which I tell him what I want him to make the music sound like, even though when I'm going to be listening back to it, I won't be able to just communicate directly in the way that I would have. So we have to come up with a whole lot of new, I still want to motivate him so that our music sounds good in this world.
That's so
what
interesting.
I want. That's what I want. But the very, very basic essence of it is humbling, and that's why I want to cry to you.
But your level of musicianship remains at the level that that hasn't diminished one iota.
I have to knock on wood.
Yeah. But I mean, and so my point is that the musicianship is still there, and you, I mean, I get what is on a more refined level. You're not hearing it, but you hear when your drummer makes a mistake, you hear it. Right.
Yes.
I know he doesn't make many, but I just,
No, but in an even more fundamental way, my instrument is a piano.
Yeah.
And when I play the piano now, I'm trying to understand it with whatever brain I still have left. That's probably failing too, but I'm hanging in there with the brain part. But music, and piano music. And the piano player plays it with his fingers. His brain's telling him how loud to play each note. And then if he's playing Mozart, he's got to play a certain way. If he's playing jazz, he's got to play a certain way. A million things.
Yeah.
And then it starts to come into your world where there's a microphone, and then there's an engineer. Now, how do you translate that? But even before you get there are all these other variables. The piano itself, is it a Yamaha, or is it a Steinway, or is it a Fazioli? And every one of them, you can have a million conversations about that. I prefer the tone of the Fazioli, I prefer the Steinway, and I prefer hard action or soft action. But all of those things are related to what they sound like. And humbly to you, in the 70s, I was so deeply into the difference between a Yamaha and a Steinway and a Chickering and a Baldwin, and probably on a blindfold test, I could say that's a Baldwin, or that's a Chickering, or that's a Casio.
I believe you.
What?
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah.
I know I could, and I was good at it. And then I could go to a microphone store and I could the B and O, this one, this one, this one. I could do, and I knew which one, subtlety of the piano tone and everything.
You find it?
Well,
I don't have that,
yeah,
but I have the memory of it. I
Yeah.
can talk about it still.
and you can record audio file records, which is
Yes.
a beautiful thing, considering
Yes.
that
Yes.
you're not going to be the engineer, but you're going to work with an engineer who you trust.
The essence of it, the world of it is still my life. And so when I go to the piano now, I'm trusting my fingers a lifetime of whether this note is going to be at a 34 velocity or a 35. I don't know. I'm just playing it, and my friends that listen to me are telling me that I'm still playing the piano the way I used to, even though I know that I'm not hearing a Steinway as opposed to a Fazioli when I'm playing it. I'm hearing a memory of it.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, it's sad, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's also wonderful that you can still do this, and you have, you're working with these people and you're doing that. Are you recording things that are going to be released in the next year or two, or this year? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Which makes it even more complicated, because I am not a pessimist and I'm not giving up, and I am going to live in my world that I have with the things that I have, with my ears that I have, and my brain that I have, and my fingers. So, okay, Bob, this is what you got, and you can either give up and retire, which many people who no longer can, if you're a brain surgeon or something and now your fingers can't do it, or you retire.
Yeah.
And I know many musicians my age who have retired.
Yeah.
Because they get too frustrated and depressed because they just can't do it.
Yeah.
Well,
and even just having an audience, which you have a huge audience, and it's around the world, but some of them just don't. They can't get a gig across town. I want to ask this from what we're talking about here. I don't think you spend much time there, but where's home for you?
Traverse City, Michigan.
No kidding.
North of Lake Michigan,
Okay.
an hour plane ride from here.
Okay.
And for long reasons, family. I moved away from the New York area. The New York area is where I did most of my career, and I recorded a lot in Los Angeles, but I never lived there.
Okay.
But now it seems like, even though I still love to travel, I can fly into Chicago or Detroit, and then from there I might as well be anywhere, and I never know whether I'm going east or west, and so I still do it and do a lot of traveling. And
Are you overseas a fair amount or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Japan or what?
Yes.
You're big in Japan, as Tom Waits once wrote a
Yes,
song.
and I have a long history there, both audio and music and everything. And I'm happy that it's a Japanese company that I'm representing today.
And that's what I was. And how did they reach out to you? How did that happen? How did they contact you?
This new record, Feel Like Making Live, which was a project of my record company based in Hong Kong called Evolution.
Yeah.
I have been affiliated with them for about 6 years now. I love them. They very unusually interested in high-end audio and all of this kind of thing. Much more than most of the recent record companies that just want to crank it out, and then they're not willing to do the packaging. They're not willing to go in and remix and all of that. They're not interested. But Ashley Whitfield, who's the president of Evolution, very interested in it. And me being an artist on his label that was making music that is very often identified with high-end audio. My music, for whatever reason.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second because I need to talk to my boss here. I was supposed to meet. No, don't go
problem.
there.
I'm not
I'll be back up. 1 second. have to be at 16:04 in a half hour.
Okay. Well, so I don't want to wander off into this world
but
too far.
so
but-
they reached out to you, but I'm still not sure how that initial connection was made.
Okay. And I'm not sure either when he, Ashley Whitfield, established his relationship with Yamaha in Japan
Okay.
for audio. And
Okay.
they have
Starting to make sense,
collaborated,
yeah.
and the liner notes on my Feel Like Making Live album that they're going to be,
Right.
I'm signing
You're
it
signing.
upstairs today,
Yeah.
describe one of the Yamaha sound systems. It's actually not really the high end, but it's the Atmos home theater type of sound system. And in my liner notes, the Yamaha system, they describe it and they talk about it and they talk about the audio. And so I'm sort of obligated to be nice to Yamaha.
Sounds
And
like
I endorse their pianos. So I have a long relationship with them, and it all kind of ties itself together. So even though they're Hong Kong based, the record company, Yamaha, and collaborated with them on this project, and they have been, the Hong Kong company, Evolution, has been great to me in terms of presenting my music in a high-end audio
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And having their records be demo records for high-end.
Yeah.
And the audio engineer, Tom Hall, who was the first time I worked with him.
That's
but even with my
that's,
bad...
that's my world here. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
show you that, like, this right here is the music section of this audio magazine. That's me writing about David Bowie.
Uh-huh.
But that's our world. That's
Yeah.
that's front page news for us.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but we're audiophile, but we also want good music. We don't want audiophile, like, I don't know, you know what I mean. And so when you talk about that, so that's very interesting. This is not really interview stuff thing, but do you know the musician David Matthews?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I know two different David Matthews. Because there's a
And I'm-
Ranger David Matthews
That's
I
who
work
I'm
with
talking
a lot.
about, yeah.
Not the David Matthews Band. No. The Ranger, yes. I
yeah.
didn't work with him a lot, but he and I are probably similar age, maybe, or almost.
I put the two of you together in my head a little bit in
Yeah.
part. And
Parallel.
one was, that you were on so many projects, just like he was on so many projects, and very active in the 70s. Well, I mean, other times too,
Yeah.
but you know what
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
where you were part of something that, and you both have been sampled a million times.
Yeah.
And David's like you, where it's like, keyboard and then a gift for arranging and for working it on all these different projects. And I ended up doing an interview with him about his early days living in Cincinnati, because I live in Cincinnati, and we talked about how he was playing in a club one night, and James Brown walked into the room, and he said, "I want this quintet to come play at King Records," and so he shows up at King Records with the quintet. They never did an album, but he got hired as an arranger, and everybody else in the band got hired to do studio work and so forth. And that kind of got him up and running and so forth and so on. But anyway, and also, like you, he's big in Japan. I mean, he's
They know how to
internationally
appreciate
known musician, yeah. And so I think about all that. Well, I'm going to let you go. You got to get some coffee or something. What, were you sitting down to were you going to get a coffee?
There was
or-
something that I wanted.
Yeah.
If you got another minute,
I do
I
have
just
a-
would
oh,
like
yeah,
to share
I'm
with
fine,
you
yeah.
a picture.
Okay.
And I already had this conversation a little bit with my friend upstairs, but I have to show you, if I can come up with it, the wall of my living room at home in Michigan. And I don't want to waste your time, but
No.
it's a very high ceiling wall that is totally vinyl, totally LPs.
Find
My
that
entire-
picture. Find that picture.
And-
And while you're looking for it, I'm going to tell you, I really hope you go downstairs. You don't need to buy any vinyl unless you want to. But if you go down, all you got to do is go down the escalator and then take a right.
Okay, I'll
you
find
go in
it.
that direction, and it's called the Record Fair, and you will see a bazillion records. A lot of them are audiophile, but not all of them. But you'll see the mobile fidelities, you'll see the analog productions, you'll see the very deluxe edition stuff. That's my world. I get that stuff in the mail and I write about it. It's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it.
I get it. So keep your ears. Take good care of them. Don't go to rock concerts.
I'm not. But you didn't do rock concerts, I don't think.
No, but even in my field, year by year, I could feel the engineers. They want louder, louder, louder. They get feeling that they're fans.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I fought it as long as I could, but overall, stage volume in every profession as I've witnessed it, it's just louder, louder, louder.
That's interesting. I know. I was listening to an interview with Donald Fagen, and he was talking about mastering records, and he said when they would master records, he said he always ended up taking the vinyl home when they were trying to master or taking because he always said it was too loud. That the engineers always wanted to play it really loud, and he said you couldn't really decide based on that volume. So it seems
It's
to
a
go
big
with what you're
thing,
saying.
and it's seductive. Like these NS5000 Yamaha speakers, they sound so great when you turn them up really loud, but the louder they have so much extra power, blah blah blah, and they want to show off. And, turn it up.
You still play vinyl?
Well, okay. So I just renovated my home, my dream design.
Got it looking the way you want it to look.
And I have this very high ceiling room that was not designed for audio, but I have a view of a lake and glass, and the glass is a problem for sound and all that. But I told my designer I have X number of LPs, and so she measured them out exactly what. So this was the LP, the whole wall.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Oh, that's lovely.
And it's the tallest part of the vinyl. I have to have a ladder, to get up there. And even at my age, I can still do it. Mm-hmm. So the process of going up there, and I have my least favorite, the ones up there, or even the people that I hate, that I have some of their music, I don't like you. So I put them up there as a kind of that's a whole different kind of a story. Down in the bottom, we put in the wall these Yamaha speakers. They sound horrible in there. I'm moving them.
Okay.
But it was done because of the designer thought it looked good. But,
I understand.
But
are you going to put them on a stand, do you think?
They're going into my studio instead of the living room, and I'm going to have some more consumer style.
Question for you. I'm going to start by telling you my answer. For me, I listen to a lot of music. I love rock. I used to go, Santana was a group for a while. I loved some of the Prague stuff, and stuff, and I loved, but the Beatles, the Stones, stuff like that. So I love all that. But when it comes to listening at home, my favorite thing is to put on jazz. And I love to put on, like piano trio, quartets, and stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Nothing Wayne Shorter, some of the things he did back in the day, and so forth and so on. But to get that acoustic blend of instruments with drums, bass, sax, piano, or whatever, some of the Brubeck stuff, so forth and so on. What about you? If you're sitting at home and it's going to be like you want to do some quality listening, what kind of music are you going to put on?
Well, because my world is playing the stuff that you talked about at home, very often I listen to classical music.
Okay.
And so that's my hobby, because that's less my real world, because when I'm listening to jazz, I'm probably going to be critical.
And it's also industry. It's your job. It's your work in a way. But if you listen to classical, it sounds just like, that's Stan Getz's son right there, Nick Getz.
Oh, yeah?
He was talking about that,
Wow.
and who just got a workout in. He said he was.
I produced Stan Getz and played with Stan Getz many times.
Can I introduce you?
Yeah, sure.
I want to get a picture together.
Nice to meet you, Nick Getz. Yes, well, your dad, I produced him, played with him.
do that. That is absolutely
sweaty from the gym.
You're all right,
Sure.
buddy. You're all right. Let's go. The